back. Really nice to be back. So, when I was asked to give this talk, the first thing that I thought about was, what does synergy actually mean? What's the actual definition of synergy? And the second thing I thought about was, whatever it means, I gotta talk about La Plante. And La Plante is a town that I'm connected to on the Cheyenne River Reservation in South Dakota. After doing some poking around online, I found out that synergy is these two components that come together that create an awesome outcome that couldn't have been achieved had they remained separate. So it's like Metro Boomin and 21 Savage, or Jean-Michel Basquiat and Andy Warhol, or even Mike Wazowski and Sully. They're really good on their own, but when they come together, they're game changers. But what would happen if one side of those pairs dropped the ball? Or what would happen if one half repeatedly messed up and didn't meet up with the other side? Or what if one half of those pairs tricked the other side into thinking that they were working together, but someone always ended up pulling the short stick? Basically, what if the dealer was stacking the deck in someone else's favor, not yours? And that kind of broken relationship, something I would not call synergy, is a lot like what the relationship between our country's history and our government and Native American folks in this country looks like. So La Plante is right under that orange arrow. This is a map of the Cheyenne River Reservation in South Dakota. On the bottom right-hand corner, you can see a map of the United States and where the Cheyenne River Reservation is located in South Dakota, and then the size of it. It's roughly the size of Connecticut. It's one of the largest reservations in the United States. And it was set up in the late 1800s by the United States as a part of their efforts to confine Native Americans to reservation land and to combine many different tribes making up the Lakota Sioux into one space. My connection to La Plante began in 2015. This is a photo that I took when I went out there. My friend and I, we moved out there right after we graduated college to carry out a project that we designed called Lakota Youth Speak. And it's a restorative justice project that we created to partner with Lakota professionals and this nonprofit, Simply Smiles, that has been welcomed into the community to engage the teenagers in the town. There's a disproportionately high rate of suicide among adolescents on the Cheyenne River Reservation, and we created this project specifically to address recent deaths in that community. My connection to this town actually began in this room with a man named Tiokasin Ghost Horse, who came for a cultural arts program when I was about 10 years old. And he plays the red cedar flute. He's also an activist and a radio host and has been really crucial for Indigenous rights in the United States. And I met him when I was in 4th grade, and I remember speaking to him, and we kept in touch via email. And then 16 years later, I reached out to him and said, hey, I have this project. And he was like, you gotta do it in La Plante. So I moved out there in 2015 to do this project. And the reason that I wanted to create Lakota Youth Speak, and the reason I wanted to partner with teenagers and work with these amazing, amazing young people, is because I wanted to create a space for play, a space for hope, a space for reparations, and a place where people could feel safe. They could just forget about what was going on, that was really hard at home. Summertime is a really difficult time on the reservation because you don't have school to distract you. There's not something that's going to take up your time. So we created Lakota Youth Speak because playtime is really critical for people of all ages. Even if you don't think so, maybe you're past playtime, you're over the hill, playtime's really important. And the first couple weeks, no one showed up. The teenagers were like, no, we're not interested in hanging out with you and making art, and we don't want to do this. And I knocked on every single door at every house that I knew had a teenager in that town. And I was like, you've got to come to this thing. And then they were like, we're not getting out of bed. And so I had to change the meeting time from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. because no teenager wants to get out of bed in the summer at 10 a.m. to meet and talk about identity. That just wasn't going to happen. So I learned my lesson there, and slowly but surely the project gained traction, and they started showing up, and it's still going. But building trust and forging partnerships with these teenagers has been really difficult. For my friends in LaPlante, the history of distrust between white folks and folks on the reservation cuts deep. Unfortunately, us white folks in our government have broken more than our fair share of promises to our Indigenous brothers and sisters. So asking for these teens to trust us, to trust that this project was a partnership, and that I was there for the long haul and I wasn't going anywhere, and that I genuinely cared about them, was a huge challenge. Because when you have to take care of your siblings because your guardian is at work all day, or when your science book is so old that your mom's name is in it, or when the money that your family has to go to food, not watercolors and paper, when you don't have time to just be a kid and play, you're going to grow up with this kind of toughness, this grit that just can't be shaken easily. And that's why we created Lakota You Speak. These are images that I took this past summer of some of the participants from one of our workshops. And I wanted to amplify these teenagers' voices. I wanted to stand next to them and hold up a megaphone and say, you need all of the listening ears that you can get. You need all of the speakers that you can get. I wanted to partner with them to give them access to resources that I grew up with. Access to art education and farming opportunities and STEAM programs and field trips and outdoor trips overnight. Stuff I learned here. I wanted to give these teenagers the exact same opportunities and stack the deck just a little bit higher for them. And achieving these goals has been really difficult. I'm not going to paint it like it's been this easy picture. We're entering our 4th summer now of this project, and the fundraising has been completely self-driven. Sometimes the day-to-day is really difficult, and it's just about taking a little victory like a hug, a completed painting. It's not a big win every day. And it's really hard to stay positive and feel like it's not just this little small thing where it's me and my project partner Elian and these teenagers and Simply Smiles, the nonprofit we partner with, against the United States priorities and our history of broken treaties and the fact that there's a pervasive hopelessness on the reservation that feels inescapable to the 1 in every 10 girls who attempt suicide. It's really hard not to feel like I'm going up against this big thing that can't be conquered. But that's why I have to show up for them. And that's why people who have access to resources, who had really awesome role models, and who had playtime, that's why you guys have to show up for them too. And I'm not blaming everyone for this or for these issues. It's not your fault that the book you learned US history from didn't tell you the whole truth, or that we still celebrate Thanksgiving largely as this peaceful coming together of cultures. At this point in history, I really don't think it's about blame. I think it's about facing our history, it's about ownership, and it's about standing as allies with the most vulnerable members of our communities. So if you are privileged, and whatever that means to you, educating yourself is a really big first step, and then showing up is another. So the next time you go shopping, if you like to shop, do some research. Support an Indigenous-owned company or business. There's a lot of really awesome Native American fashion designers and clothing brands out there right now. Nike has a partnership right now with a lot of Native American artists. If you have access to a library, borrow books written by Native American authors. There's some really good graphic novels out there right now, and children's literature. This one in particular, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, is so funny and totally inappropriate. And it just captures the nuances of reservation life. And I think humor, why I bring up humor is because it's really important to get through hard times. Humor is a really big thing, and it creates resilience in us. This book is brand new. It's a compilation of different Native American folk tales and folklores in graphic novel style. So if you don't read a lot of words, this is the book for you. Also, if you have Spotify or SoundCloud, or if you go on YouTube, or if you have a phone and you like to go on the internet, there are so many Native American musicians and artists and app developers and websites. If you're carrying around a computer in your pocket, I think there are endless resources for you to be a great ally. And I just want to leave you with some images from a photography project that I did with the participants in Lakota Youth Speak last summer. I asked them to photograph what they see every day, to capture the images of their lives. And this was the first time that any of these teenagers had seen a film camera or used one. So I gave them all disposable cameras and a couple prompts, and I just asked them to capture their daily lives. And I think the fact that they had never used film cameras before makes these images even more powerful. This is one of the really successful art initiatives that I started that we're going to continue next summer and indefinitely until these kids are in college and feel a greater sense of hope and belonging and have the opportunities that I believe they so deserve. These images are honest, they're powerful, and they speak for themselves. Thank you.